further now. Bolanle Agbaje joins me, senior analyst, financial derivatives company. Great to have you. Good morning.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank God you didn't have to fly here today, but
Yes.
that's a really serious situation
Very,
we're seeing.
very serious. Like you mentioned, extremely critical industry. We don't need this kind of disruption, you know, adding to the number of problems that are already plaguing that particular industry with the, you know, the blocked funds issue that is still ongoing. And also the fact that, you know, jet fuel is also very expensive and also very hard to find. Now you're adding the strike issue. It's not necessarily great for an industry that contributes about 77.8 billion naira to our gross domestic product. And that was, you know, from the last reports that we had seen from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. But all in all, I understand that is a warning strike, and I do hope that, you know, the government more or less implements, because from what we understand, it seems like they had already made a decision on what they needed to change within that sector. So it's just the implementation aspect of it, and that's what they're crying for. And although strikes are good, because obviously your problems are heard, but it just creates less productivity within that industry, and it's not necessarily great for us now, considering that last year most of the year was plagued with the ASU strike, and this year we're already battling the aviation strike. It's not necessarily good for us moving forward, and it just keeps drawing us back. With the new administration coming in, I just hope that they're taking this into consideration and have better plans going forward for that, that industry and many other industries within the country.
It almost seems like we could tag 2023 the year of strikes, you know, going by what we've seen. Even in the UK, they have multiple strikes, you know, going on there. And it's still this whole wage issue.
Yes.
Can we blame this on inflation? Because ever since we had this inflation issue, obviously wages don't match up.
They don't match up, yes. So obviously inflation is one of the major culprits. But obviously going forward, we had seen the fact that there was disruption caused by COVID. And that was the beginning of the issues that we're currently seeing at the moment. And countries are still, you know, 2 years plus on, they're still trying to find their footing after that whole disruption of the world economy. So I know that it will take some time, but the government will definitely find solutions going forward, because they can't afford to have that critical sector, you know, have issues. Because right now, I'm sure so many people are stranded. Flights are, you know, disrupted. How do they even manage this if this goes longer? And also movements of goods and people around the country. It's not necessarily a nice thing to hear for a country like this going through that kind of situation. And also, I think towards the end of last year, Kenya also had that problem. They had, there was an aviation strike going on towards the end of last year as well in Kenya. And I'm sure we should probably learn from how they dealt with that particular situation. But I hope that this will be the end of the strike. And I know that talks are going on now, and we were hopeful that, you know, something good comes out of it. I think that's all that we can possibly say, because it's in the hands of the government.
And talking about being in the hands of the government, I know salary is a big part of this protest, but can the government afford their demands right now?
It's a very dicey situation. I guess what the government might, you know, possibly do, the only quick solution would be to lose out on some other aspects of the economy. So there's definitely going to be that opportunity cost. So move money around and focus on what is probably of high priority for the new administration. I think that's the most they can do, because in terms of looking for funds, new funds in other places, I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm hearing that the disbursement of the funds that was given to the country in terms of the subsidy has already started. They've already started moving that around. And we hope that at least helps to alleviate some of the poverty that the individuals within the economy are facing at the moment.
I think the Senate is supposed to give some kind of pass on that, you know, about how to use that fund, you know, sending 5,000 naira.
Yes, well,
I think they still have to assent to that.
Well, I think from what I've seen, it seems like 40% of that has already, you know, started to fizzle out within the economy. So
That's $800 million.
Yes. So
is that the best way to spend that money?
I guess the government would be the best decision to make the best decision for that.
What can you do with 5,000 naira, really?
Not necessarily anything, but I guess the idea behind it is just to more or less show that support for the people within the economy.
Quite expensive, because we have to pay that back.
Yes, but all in all, without the funds, we definitely have to still feel the hurt from the removal of the subsidy. Yeah. There is no going two ways about it.
And I'm talking about feeling the hurt. Over the weekend, we got that hot inflation data for March. Now we have this protest going on in April. How does that play into the inflation
So obviously,
story?
Inflation numbers have gone up against what we had predicted, and that's the third consecutive increase of inflation. And I guess we had thought that, you know, the fact that there was the cash squeeze situation that would have played into marginal decline in inflation numbers, but that wasn't the case. And you had seen the fact that, you know, some of these manufacturers are feeling the heat and passing that on to the prices. And also, we're in the planting season as well. The seasonality aspect pinched, you know, the food prices. But all in April, we definitely do expect another increase as due to the fact that we had seen the Easter celebrations, the Ramadan celebrations, the increase in demand, and the continuation of the planting season as well. So definitely in April, we're going to feel the heat. And with this strike issue as well, I think that's going to be a contributing factor for our inflation numbers in April.
And definitely all eyes on the MPC, you know, at this time. What's going to happen
Before
next? We've seen rate hikes already.
We know that they've gotten the advice from many, you know, world agencies saying that they should leave the hawkish stance to more or less deal with inflation going forward. So what we had thought was that as much as, you know, it's a hawkish situation going on right now, they would not necessarily increase interest rates, but we don't know what would happen. They most likely increase the interest rates or leave it the way it is. But I know that if battling inflation is something that the central bank would prioritize significantly.
Let's hope we can win that battle sometime, because it definitely keeps going on.
Yes.
Looking at the oil market now, see Exxon Mobil, they've declared a force majeure on its oil exports.
Yes. It's unfortunate for us. Our oil production is currently at about 1.6. So we do hope that they solve this as soon as possible so we don't feel the pinch, considering that oil prices are still relatively high at the moment. But force majeures are things that, you know, we've been experiencing for the past few years, and I think what's more important is how quick we come out of it and, you know, get back into producing our oil or increasing our oil production. So yes, so that's what's happening. It's not necessarily great news for us, but going forward, we do hope that they solve the issue as quick as possible.
And looking at the Naira now, we saw it appreciate about 0.27% in the parallel market. What drove that?
So we're not, there obviously dollar shortages at the moment, and that's obviously we're feeling the heat on the appreciation of the Naira. It's actually good for us in the sense that, you know, the appreciation of the dollar is great for many manufacturers around the economy. But yeah, so it's just a marginal appreciation. But over the past week, we've been seeing, you know, marginal appreciation and marginal depreciation. But I think what's more important is the fact that the IATA rate has depreciated, and that's not so great. But what this might feed into might be the decline in the request for PTA allowances and all of that. So that's in the medium to long term, this should actually be better for us, because when you see that decline, then it means that obviously our Naira appreciates going forward. So it's great news now, and we hope that, you know, it continues that trajectory. But I don't see the Naira, you know, going past or moving higher or lower than 700 in the nearest term for sure.
All right. Well, looking at the commodities market, at the domestic commodities market, what's playing out there?
Well, we're seeing mixed reviews. Prices are still relatively stable, but in April, I'm sure we're going to, towards the end of April, we're going to definitely see increases in major prices of major domestic commodities going forward. And obviously, that's not necessarily great, but by the time we enter the harvest season, we should see prices taper down.
All right, we're looking out for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bolanle Agbaje, Senior Analyst, Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a moment now.